In today's world, silence feels like a lost language. We live in a time of constant noise, notifications, debates, opinions everywhere. But what if choosing not to speak could be just as powerful as speaking up? What if silence wasn't a gap in conversation, but a tool, one that could strengthen your mind, protect your peace, and command more respect than any words ever could? That's exactly what Stoicism, a timeless philosophy from ancient Greece, teaches us. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, once said, "It's better to trip with the feet than with the tongue." And honestly, how many times have you said something in anger or frustration that you later regretted? Stoicism doesn't just encourage silence, it teaches us how and when to use it. That it sees silence not as absence, but as presence, a deliberate, active choice, a strategy. And in a world where everyone's fighting to be heard, the ability to be quiet and stay calm can be the greatest superpower you have. Over the next few minutes, we're going to explore 5 life-changing moments where practicing Stoic silence isn't just wise, it's transformative. In each of these moments, we'll show how choosing not to react impulsively can protect your energy, your dignity, and your direction. So take a deep breath, lean in, and let's explore. The first scenario. 1. The art of silent strength. When you're unfairly criticized. There's something uniquely painful about being judged unfairly, especially when you've worked hard, stayed honest, or done your best. But here's where Stoicism shifts the lens. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Criticism itself isn't the problem. It's your interpretation of it. Imagine this. You've poured your heart into a project, and your boss tears it apart without justification. Your first instinct might be to fire back, to defend yourself, to set the record straight. But Stoicism offers a different path. A Stoic would pause, analyze, and respond not with emotion, but with principle. Ask yourself, is there any truth in this feedback? If so, use it to improve. If not, let it go. Silence, in this case, is not weakness. It's control. Epictetus, another Stoic teacher, believed that silence in the face of unfair judgment preserves both your peace and your honor. It shows maturity. It keeps you from being dragged into drama. And more importantly, it communicates a quiet strength that you don't need validation to stay grounded. When you refuse to respond to baseless criticism, you turn conflict into clarity. You show that your self-worth isn't up for debate. That doesn't mean you ignore all feedback, but you learn to separate the noise from the truth, to discern what matters from what's emotional noise. And sometimes, silence can say everything. It says, "I don't need to argue, I know who I am." It says, "My work will speak louder than my defense ever could." It says, "I'm not here to win approval. I'm here to do what's right." And in a world that thrives on reaction and rebuttal, that kind of restraint stands out. Remember what Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't waste time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." By choosing silence in the face of unfairness, you model strength, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. So next time someone criticizes you unfairly, pause. Ask, what do I control in this moment? The answer is simple: your response, your attitude, your silence. And when your silence is chosen with purpose, it becomes your loudest statement. 2. The quiet power in a room full of boasting. Let's talk about a situation you've definitely been in. You're at a party, a work event, or maybe even just scrolling social media. Someone is going on and on boasting about their salary, their luxury vacations, their perfect relationship. You feel the urge to jump in, to balance the energy, maybe even to one-up them a little. But Stoicism suggests a different route, one that may feel counterintuitive at first, but is deeply powerful. In moments of boasting, silence can be your greatest ally. Why? Because true confidence doesn't need a microphone. Stoic thinkers saw pride not as something to announce, but something to live. They believed that what you don't say often says far more about you than what you do. When someone brags, they're often looking for one thing: validation. But when you respond with quiet, when you choose to simply listen, maybe with a slight smile or a nod, you're signaling that you don't need the same validation. You're grounded. You're focused on a different kind of success, the kind that doesn't need an audience. Epictetus famously said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." This means you don't need to advertise your success. You just live it. Let your actions, your values, your consistency speak. And let the loud talkers run out of breath on their own. Consider this. When you stay silent while someone else is boasting, you gain the advantage of clarity. You see them for who they really are. You gain insight while they reveal their insecurities. In contrast, when you join in the boasting, you lose that clarity and you risk entering a contest with no prize. There's a kind of quiet dignity in not needing to prove yourself. And this silence isn't about being passive or awkward. It's a confident, chosen stillness. The kind that makes people wonder, what does this person know that I don't? Let's take a real-world example. Imagine you're at a networking dinner. A colleague across the table is loudly talking about their six-figure bonus, their new Tesla, their VIP vacation. You're tempted to share your own wins, your recent promotion, your investments, your new business ideas. But instead, you choose to listen. You nod. You ask a simple question about their trip, and you leave it at that. Later, others notice something. While everyone else was competing to be heard, you stood out without saying much. Your confidence wasn't performative. It was grounded. That's memorable. That's powerful. This is what Stoicism teaches us. That silence isn't emptiness. It's strength and stillness. It's composure. It's self-possession. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In the context of boasting, this means resisting the urge to compete in ego games. Instead, you walk your own path, fueled not by applause, but by purpose. Here's a small challenge for you. The next time someone around you is bragging, pause. Ask yourself, do I really need to join in? Or does my silence say more? Let them have the spotlight. You've got something better. Self-mastery. When you build your identity around your values instead of your achievements, you become untouchable. Boasts can't shake you. Comparison can't distract you. And the noise of the room doesn't drown out your direction. So remember, you don't have to speak louder to matter more. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You only have to stay aligned with your own values. That's real power. And it begins with silence. 3. Silence as a shield against anger. Anger is like fire. It burns hot, fast, and often uncontrollably. One careless spark, one impulsive word, and everything can go up in flames. Relationships, trust, your own peace of mind. But what if there was a way to stop the fire before it spreads? Stoicism offers that way, and it starts with silence. When anger surges, silence isn't just golden, it's protective. It gives you space. It gives you power. It turns a dangerous reaction into a wise response. Epictetus once said, "Keep silence for the most part, and speak only when necessary." Now that's easy to say, But what does it look like in real life? Picture this. You're at work. A teammate makes a mistake that costs your team hours of effort. You're frustrated, furious even. The words form instantly in your head. How could you mess this up? But instead of speaking, you pause. You breathe. You hold the words in. And in that moment, you shift the dynamic. You've bought yourself time. Time to cool down. Time to assess. Time to speak with clarity instead of chaos. Because here's the truth. Most of the damage from anger doesn't come from what happened. It comes from how we reacted. Marcus Aurelius, reflecting on this, wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it." The thing that made you angry may be small, but if you react without thinking, the consequences can ripple for days, weeks, even years. Let's take another example. Imagine you're in an argument with your partner. Tensions are high. Voices rise. You're tempted to throw in that one line, the one you know will hurt, the one that will win. But you don't. You breathe. You stay silent. That silence can feel like swallowing a flame. But it's also choosing peace over pride. It's choosing love over being right. And often, that single moment of restraint turns the whole conversation. Instead of escalating, it de-escalates. Instead of widening the gap, it creates space. For healing, this is the core of Stoic anger management. Not suppression, but discipline. You don't ignore the emotion. You acknowledge it. You let it pass through you. But you refuse to let it dictate your next move. You own your response. And over time, that habit of pausing, of silent reflection, builds something stronger than any outburst could ever give you. Emotional resilience. Here are a few Stoic tools you can use in moments of anger. Recognize the trigger. Before reacting, ask, what exactly is making me feel this way? Shift perspective. Try to see the situation through the other person's eyes. Breathe. Deep breathing resets your nervous system. 3 long breaths can save you from saying something you'll regret. Delay your response. If you need to reply, wait. A few minutes, an hour, even a day. Time creates clarity. Focus on what you can control. You can't change what happened, but you can choose your next move. Use silence as strength. Let your calm presence speak louder than your words. Remember Nelson Mandela? After 27 years in prison, he emerged not with a heart full of hate, but with the intention to unify a divided nation. He chose forgiveness. He chose silence over vengeance. That's not weakness. That's supreme strength. A culture that often glorifies outrage and instant reactions. The Stoic path is rare but powerful. When you stay calm in the face of provocation, you become unshakable. You become the one in the room who can be trusted, respected, remembered. So the next time anger knocks at your door, try this. Don't answer it with words. Answer it with silence. Then, when the fire fades, choose your response with clarity, not emotion. Because true strength isn't shown in how loudly you can yell. It's shown in how calmly you can stay silent. 4. Silence in the face of false rumors. There's a certain kind of pain that words can inflict, especially when those words are lies. False rumors. Whispers behind your back. People distorting your truth just to boost their own image or feed their own insecurities. It's natural to want to fight back, to correct the record, to prove yourself right. But the Stoics offer a different path, one that's harder, quieter, but infinitely more powerful. Silence. Seneca once wrote, "Time discovers truth. Do nothing out of revenge. Leave it to time." This isn't about being passive. It's about choosing where your energy goes. Because sometimes, defending your name only gives the rumor more power. Responding validates the lie. Chasing the noise just traps you in it. But when you say nothing, when you hold your ground with dignity, you force the lie to collapse under its own weight. People may say, if you don't defend yourself, won't they believe the rumor? Maybe for a while. But over time, truth has a way of surfacing. And people start to notice a pattern. That you stay consistent. You live your values. You don't shift with the gossip. You're not reactive. You're real. Let's take a story. From modern times, there was a public figure calm, composed, respected, falsely accused in the media of something that never happened. The world watched, waiting for his fiery press conference, his angry rebuttal. But instead, he remained mostly silent, quietly doing his work, not lashing out, not retaliating. Months later, the truth emerged. The accuser recanted. And public opinion shifted, not because he shouted his innocence, but because he lived it. That kind of silence, it isn't weakness. It's a deep form of self-respect, because when you truly know who you are, you don't feel the need to explain it to people who don't. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in his journal, if you're distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. The Stoics believed that your reputation is outside your control, but your character isn't. So you focus on that, your actions, your integrity, your mission. You rise above the noise, not to look down on others, but to stay focused on what truly matters. Here's a way to think about it. Imagine your life as a quiet river. Lies, gossip, drama, they're like stones thrown into the surface. They cause ripples, maybe even waves. But if you don't react, if you stay calm, the water settles. The truth becomes clear again. But if you thrash around trying to grab every stone, you only muddy the water more. Silence gives your dignity space to breathe, and it speaks louder than any defense could. Let's make this practical. If you ever face false rumors, try this. Check your impulse. Ask, is this about truth or ego? Respond with action, not argument. Keep showing up. Keep doing the work. Speak only when necessary, and then with clarity, not emotion. Trust the long game. Integrity wins over time. Let the results speak. Your life, your choices, your presence, these are your best defense. At the end of the day, some people want you to respond. They want the drama, they want the argument. But when you choose silence, you deprive them of that power. And you hold onto yours. So the next time you're misunderstood, misquoted, or misjudged, remember this. Your silence doesn't mean surrender. It means self-control. And that's the kind of strength the world can't ignore. 5. Why the world respects the quiet man. There's something about a quiet man that makes people pay attention, even when he says nothing. He walks into a room and doesn't need to announce himself. He doesn't chase attention, doesn't scramble to impress. He observes, listens, moves with intention. And that is power, because in a world addicted to noise, the quiet man becomes a mystery. He becomes magnetic. Why? Because we live in an age where everyone wants to be seen. Everyone's performing, posting, talking, yelling. It's exhausting and forgettable. But the quiet man? He stands out precisely because he doesn't try to, and that's what Stoicism teaches us. Not to withdraw from the world, but to move through it with poise, with control, with inner clarity. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, and one of the most powerful men in history, wrote to himself daily, not to boast, but to reflect. His strength came not from dominating people, but from mastering himself. And he understood one thing clearly. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. No grand speeches, no begging for validation, just action. Quiet, deliberate, consistent action. And that's the foundation of respect. People don't respect loud declarations. They respect consistency. They respect restraint. They respect the man who doesn't need the spotlight, because he knows who he is. Think about some of the most admired men in history. Those who carried themselves with calm discipline. Nelson Mandela, who endured decades of prison without bitterness. Mr. Rogers, who radiated quiet strength and emotional wisdom. Keanu Reeves, famously humble, kind, and thoughtful without ever trying to be a celebrity personality. What do they all have in common? They didn't speak just to be heard. They spoke when it mattered. And when they didn't speak, people still listened. Because their silence was never empty. It was full of meaning. Full of presence. The quiet man isn't passive. He's focused. He doesn't lack opinions. He just doesn't waste them. He doesn't need to win arguments. He wins through example. That's why people trust him. That's why others follow him. That's why, when he does speak, it cuts through the noise. So how can you become this kind of man? Practice restraint. Not every opinion needs to be voiced. Not every insult needs a comeback. Be intentional. Speak with purpose or not at all. Build character in silence. Do the hard work when no one's watching. Develop inner stillness. Through journaling, meditation, or even just walking alone, train your mind to be calm. Let your actions speak. Be reliable. Be respectful. Be excellent, even when no one claps. Because in the end, the quiet man commands a deeper form of respect. The kind that can't be faked, shouted, or bought. It's earned. Over time. Through silence, through discipline. Through showing up day after day with grace and self-respect. And maybe that's the final Stoic truth. The world doesn't respect the man who talks the most. It respects the man who needs to say the least. Because he lives what others only preach. So, stay silent when you can. Speak only when it's true, necessary, and kind. And let your calm presence echo louder than any noise around you.